High Court Nightmare is the hardest rift to sub 2. Because the bosses use many different attacks, it's almost impossible to reproduce the same run over and over. That's why I don't think it's really relevant to show one sub 2 run, as yours will always be different. However, the main strategy used, the steps to follow, and many tips can still be given. I will here go through how each wave is played using the hours of footage I have. Sit down, enjoy. Now let's try hard. I advise you to go 1 toothpick tank and 3 portal DPS. The tank has a classic build that means splash, mist, whistle, healthy snacks, healing charm, R&B, alongside major health and major regen rings. However, it is possible to go either minor health or minor regen for the last ring. I would advise you to try both for at least 20-30 runs and then get your personal preference. Sometimes you have long session runs where you feel like you're not making any progress, and they can get quite mind-numbing. So switching rings can help you get out of this boring loop by bringing a bit more diversity to your runs. Now, the portal DPS all use Zap, Fireworks and Spray. I would advise going 2 portals with Fireworks rightmost for DPS and 1 portal with Spray rightmost, as it allows for better and faster wave 1. But we'll come back to it later. Unstable lining, auto zap, major crit, major gadget, and now there's a bit of a war. You can either go minor gadget and use R&B, unstable beam or gadget battery, or go major passive and have unstable beam. On average, major passive deals 50k more damage than minor gadget. But you can't go with a defensive passive, otherwise minor gadget becomes better. Now, minor gadget allows you to have more HP, which is a game changer in this rift. So, is the tiny bonus damage from major passive really worth the lack of tankiness? I don't know. And I say it's a bit of a war because there are basically 2 teams, the minor gadget believers and the major passive believers. To be honest, I would also advise you to try both for at least 20 runs and get your own feeling of it. Personally, I have played countless sessions where I would just switch between both every run, and I don't really feel any difference in damage. However, I can clearly tell that minor gadget makes you tankier. But same thing as a tank build, if you have been running the rift for hours and you feel no progress, try to switch build just so it makes your gameplay a bit more fresh. Your main enemy in wave 1 is the Overlord, because it's a boss, but mainly because you want to kill it before it does its second summoning attack. The summon mobs take too long to clean up and waste too many gadgets. So to increase your chances of getting a good wave 2 entry, you gotta target the Overlord. Solo zap and dump at the start, get your spray's max range on the Overlord, and then make sure all your rockets hit it as well. Your second zap is also crucially important. Learn to position yourself well enough to also solo hit the Overlord, or at least have only one other target being zapped. It is totally fine to hold your zap for up to 5 or even 6 seconds, just so you are sure you get a good one. When your fireworks are ready, I would also advise to hold them until you see the Overlord start an attack pattern. If the Overlord jumps when you use them, then you are already having a bad wave 1. The first mobs summoned by the Overlord can be quite annoying. One way of dealing with them is having 1 portal playing with Spray rightmost. The bonus amount of sprays help immensely with these mobs and also help having quick gadgets to finish the Overlord when needed. For the tank, wave 1 usually starts with a first whistle. You then want to slowly pull the boss to the top right. Try to save your splash heal as long as possible so it can be used on your DPS if they take damage. On your second whistle, you just hold the top right corner and try to position yourself so that at most 1 Royal Knight hits you. This is quite risky and leads to lots of reset, but if you get a lucky crit hill or good dodges, then your DPS will have a crazy burst on all the mobs. Counting your DPS gadget cooldown can also help you so that you group the mobs at the best timing possible. Also, try to stand next to a wall at all times so that knockbacks don't push you away from your teammates. Healing your DPS is your last priority, and get to learn which attacks you should tank and which ones you should dodge. At the beginning of the wave, dodge as much as possible so you have enough HP to eat all the incoming damage. When low on health, the Overlord always does jump into cone into summon. Once again, the goal is to kill it before that summon ability. However, the boss summoning a second time is not a run killer. In fact, my own Sub2 run had a second spawn. It's hard to tell a good wave 2 entry timer because it mainly depends on your available gadgets and the health of the tank, so roughly 4:15 with all gadgets ready, 4:20 with most gadgets ready, and 4:25 or over with nothing ready. Dealing damage in wave 2 is rather simple. You have 3 gadgets that you want to use in 3 different ways. For your zap, make sure you position yourself so that you can solo hit the ladybug. If she already spawned guards, it's better to wait and kill them or solo zap a big guard if its HP is too high. You always want to use your rockets on all 3 bosses. It's the job of the tank to group them, so if you see that the bosses are spread out, I'd advise you to hold your rockets until you can hit all 3 of the bosses. Your spray should also be used the same way, and if you can hit all 3 bosses, try to get a max range on the guards. Since the ladybug is already eating your zap, there's a big chance that the guard is left alive at the end of wave 2. Also, if you see that the ladybug is about to summon guards, then you should hold rockets or spray so that you can get a better value by using it on them. If you take a grow from a guard, do not run away. You will die anyway and throw the run by luring out a boss. Instead, run towards your tank. By doing that, you are regrouping the bosses, helping your tank take the aggro back, and maybe even get some healing from them if it's available. Don't stay behind your tank. Even if you're insanely far away, the snipes of the ladybug are absurdly hurtful and 2-tap you from an insane range. But also, if your tank comes towards you, there is a very high chance they're trying to heal you. So if you're not full health, just try to stay in range of spatial in case it happens. As the tank, you want to group the mobs together as much as possible. Use your first whistle as soon as possible and try to hold your second whistle for when the ladybug spawns guards. This not only gives pace to your DPS, but also get them killed much quicker. Remember that the ladybug will always move after a summoning attack, so also try to save your dash for this moment. Generally speaking, you also want to try and block 1 or 2 guards behind the ladybug and move around to mirror their movements. Sadly, the few very good HCNM tanks don't record their runs, but if you want footage of how a tank is supposed to play Wave 2, I'd highly advise watching Moro's VODs on Twitch, which you can find down below. Same as the Wave 2 entries, the Wave 3 entry timers vary depending on the gadgets ready. But if you want a good shot at a Sub2, a 335 Wave 3 entry is the bare minimum. And now we enter pure chaos. The bosses have a lot of damage, a lot of range, and a lot of mobility, making it by far the toughest wave. Unlike wave 1, start on the left and rotate anti-clockwise, because the spin attack of the Beetle Riders pushes to the left, so if the tank gets hit by it, he won't be pushed away from his teammates, but instead towards them. Pulling the mobs slightly right at the beginning of the wave help the DPS do a first stamp with much more safety. And then come back left while hugging the wall. Bait the yo-yos away from the DPS, follow the Duke's jumps so it keeps the aggro on you, and make sure you don't lose this aggro by running away too quickly from the bosses. As a DPS, just like wave 1, make sure all your gadgets hit the Duke, because it's almost always going to be the last boss alive. So hold your gadgets until you know they can hit it. The biggest threat in wave 3 are the yo-yo attacks. Unlike in Tournament Grounds for Chapter 1, they do not have an attack indicator, and if you are playing the major passive ring, you get one shot. It is crucial that you pay attention to their movements to tell whether they're about to do the attack or not. So yes, you have to stay as far as possible from the bosses, but close enough so that you can see the yo-yo animation. The riders have 3 different attacks: the 360, the charge, and the yo-yo. So if you see one using 360 and charge, then you know that there is a very high chance that it's about to use Yo-Yo. As a tank, crit healing is almost mandatory to survive the wave because you want your DPS to hit rockets on all 3 bosses. You kind of have to send it and just pray you don't die once the timer gets to 310, 315, and maybe get a magical 1xx run. A quick shout out to all the teammates I've played with during my runs, with a bigger one going to Wizcrasher and Wasim, who have been providing tank tips for every wave. Thank you guys. You can then check my other video on High Court, being the Sub2 itself. Now, how hard is it compared to the other rifts? Very, in fact. I seriously advise you to go for all the other Sub2s before even trying that one. The Sub2 30 is pretty free, but a full team of Elite 140 plus and a lucky run are both needed to manage the Sub2. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I just mean that you need to be good at the game to pull it off. So, are you good enough?